We are in Georgetown, South Carolina, the third oldest city in South Carolina. Why? Well, even though there's so much history here, from the American Revolution, the Swamp Fox, even the Civil War, I'm here because of Theodosia Burr. Who is she? Well, the daughter of Aaron Burr, who disappeared right here as she took a boat to see her father in New York and was never seen again. They also say her ghost walks this dockyard. Let's see if we can find her. Everybody thinks they know Aaron Burr because they saw the play Hamilton, but we're going to learn the truth about Aaron and Theodosia. He was a playboy, that we know, but when he met Theodosia's mother, also named Theodosia, she was married to a British soldier, but they connected intellectually. They said she wasn't the most beautiful woman, but he rode for miles to stay with her at her home. It was scandalous at the time. When her husband died, they married, and they had Theodosia, their only legitimate daughter, between the two of them that survived. Women usually only received enough education to be a good wife. Aaron Burr believed women should be educated. He was a rarity at the time. His mother and grandmother had been highly educated as well, and their husbands were preachers. Kind of interesting. Well, when Theodosia Burr was born, he made sure that she had the education of a man. By the time she was 10, she spoke fluent Latin and French and helped her older step-siblings with their math. Around this time, the book by Mary Wollstonecraft, you might have heard of it. It was kind of controversial. It was called The Vindication of the Rights of Woman. Aaron Burr came out saying that she was a genius. He believed if women were educated, like a man, it would prove they had a soul. Abigail Adams even read the book. Well, a lot of women read the book. It was a bestseller at the time, but John Adams poked fun at his wife for reading it. But it just showed that Aaron Burr believed in women's rights, and the fact he came out very vocally about it, even to the point where Alexander Hamilton said it was unnatural to let women learn like a man. An interesting tidbit, Mary Wollstonecraft's daughter, Mary, you might know her as Mary Shelley, she wrote Frankenstein. Theodosia met Alston in New York. He was a Southern South Carolina plantation owner, but he wanted to be in politics. One day he would become the South Carolina governor. But when he met her in New York, they had instant attraction. And she was only 17 and he was 21. He wanted to get married, but she thought they were too young. So she had him debate her in letters why they should get married. Now, her and Aaron Burr in New York had slaves, but Aaron Burr believed in educating his slaves. He was a big abolitionist. He told her Charleston was very cosmopolitan and very beautiful, and that their love would endure anything. So she gave in, and they got married. She packed up her bags and moved to South Carolina, which ended up being a lot different than New York, because she loved hobnobbing with politicians and hosting parties. Not the tea kind, the political kind. She loved conversation. Like I said, she was sophisticated and educated. Now we have to go back to Aaron Burr, because when they got married, that was during the whole president debacle with Thomas Jefferson. Back then, you didn't run as president, vice president, you just ran. Thomas Jefferson knew Aaron Burr was running, but he always assumed he would win, Aaron Burr would be the vice president. Well, when the election results came out, they actually tied. And Thomas Jefferson was very upset that Burr did not step back and let him just be president. It took 6 months of the House voting over and over again until they finally agreed to let Thomas Jefferson be president, and that's mostly because Alexander Hamilton hated Burr, but Hamilton played a big part in making sure Aaron Burr was not president. After they married, Aaron Burr wanted to give Alston the minister position in France. He assumed his daughter and him would move there and she could continue her education. This is the location where the Oaks Plantation was, where Theodosia lived with Joseph. And when she gave birth to her son, Aaron Burr Alston, Aaron Burr himself left New York to come down here to be with her. Now, Aaron Burr is the vice president, and he and Hamilton still cannot stand each other. Burr began a bank for the poor, which is now Chase Bank today. They were always on opposite sides. Burr was trying to take care of the little man. Hamilton wanted to be aristocracy. Well, they had the famous duel, and we can debate what happened there all day. But at the end of the day, Hamilton was dead, and he was not arrested because they didn't commit a crime. They went across the water over into Jersey, where they were allowed to duel. It might have hurt his reputation, but he did not break any laws. There was no crime committed. Since his career was over, he did not continue to be the vice president for Thomas Jefferson's next term. But he was very disenfranchised with how our government was run, a lot like we are today. Back then, the West was open, so he was going to go west and find new territory. Now, this is where there's not a lot of information, but according to Jefferson, Burr wanted to take Mexico and make a new world and make himself emperor and put his daughter Theodosia as his empress. Now, there's no proof of this, but this is where the trial of the century began. For this reason, he was arrested, because Thomas Jefferson had no proof, but he put it out there that Aaron Burr wanted to commit treason against America, and he needed to be arrested. And he completely slandered his name and told the American people that he had proof, but he did not. So there was a lot of talk, but talk is not proof. Thomas Jefferson had him arrested for treason in Alabama, and he was on his way to Richmond for the trial. They stopped in Chester, South Carolina, where we are. And there's a rock here. They say when Aaron Burr got off his horse, he stepped on this rock and made a speech. We are on our way to Lewis Inn on Aaron Burr Road, where he was kept prisoner for a night before he went on to Richmond. It was a story. We're good. Yes, ma'am?
Okay. Sorry, we want to make sure we live here.
Oh, sorry. We're doing an Aaron Burr trip. Yeah. And we were under the rock, and then and we just wanted to kind of show.
Well, you want to come upstairs and see the room?
I would love to.
I'm trying to think.
Behind me is Lewis Inn, built in 1740. This is where Aaron Burr was kept prisoner on his way to Richmond. And he actually stayed in that room upstairs. And he bribed the maid to keep the door unlocked. She did. And he escaped in the middle of the night and ran over to those woods over there. And they caught him, brought him back, and they actually shackled him to the middle column pole there overnight. The cool thing is, as we were filming the first round of these videos, the owners showed up and let us go inside. After Lewis Inn, Burr was taken to Richmond, where the trial of the century happened, and John Marshall was the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, who reigned over the trial and became famous for it. The trial of the century. Why is it called that? Well, we are a new country. We have a new constitution. And in England, which when we were English subjects prior to our independence, treason was anything. Your neighbor could say the king should be killed, and you would go down with him just because you were associated as his neighbor. People were killed all the time in the UK over treason. But we're a new country. You just can't accuse someone of treason without proof. And this court proved the Supreme Court would always hold up the Constitution and was more powerful than the other branches. That included our president. I also want to add, I don't think Thomas Jefferson really thought this through. I do think he believed Aaron Burr was guilty because he hated him. And people are guilty of believing all kind of rumors about someone that you don't like, even if you don't have the facts. Thomas Jefferson let the hate get the best of him. And the sad part is he told the American people that Burr was guilty and he had proof that he was. Everyone turned against Aaron Burr. They were burning effigies of him in the street. Once again, there was no proof that he was going to make an act of war against our country. We don't know. But during this court case, there was no proof. Even though Aaron Burr was proven innocent, he was exiled to Europe for 4 years. He was hated in this country because of the slander from Thomas Jefferson before the trial even began. Theodosia, living here in South Carolina, had a son who she named after her father, Aaron Burr Alston. Unfortunately, in July of 1812, when he was 10 years old, he died of the summer fever. It was their only son, and she was not able to have any more children because she had a uterus infection after he was born, and they believed she had stomach cancer, but that was not proven at the time. So it's 1812. Aaron Burr is now back in New York. Now that Aaron Burr is back in the US, Theodosia wants to see her father immensely. She has not seen him for 4 years, and like I said, she's very depressed. She has no reason to live. She is just miserable. And her husband, against his better judgment, allows her to go see her father, even though it is winter of 1812. If Theodosia went to New York by boat, it would take about 8 days. But they also understood that it was 1812. What was happening in 1812? Obviously, the war. So there were very many British ships out there. You had pirates and privateers. If she took a carriage, that would take almost 2 weeks, and with her ailments, a rough carriage ride was not the answer. So Aaron Burr sent down his Revolutionary War friend, Dr. Green, to escort his daughter to New York. They commissioned a boat called the Patriot, a privateer boat, but in this case it would be civilian, so all the weapons were moved underneath. Theodosia would have had rice to sell, which would have covered the cannons, her dresses, jewels, and the most important part of this mystery is she would have had all of Aaron Burr's records and letters that she had kept for him when he was in exile. And right here near where the home stood is the creek where Theodosia would have got on the first boat to take her to Georgetown. Right here. So here we are on Cannon Street. After they took a boat from Oak Plantation to Georgetown, she would have come down this Cannon Street right here to this dock where her husband was with her, her maid, and Dr. Green. When she got on the rowboat, they would row over to the ship, the Patriot, and that's where Jonathan would give her her final kiss. Obviously is not the same dock today, but this is the same exact spot that Theodosia was put on the second rowboat and rowed over to the Patriot. There is where she gave her husband their last kiss. It is New Year's Eve, 1812, and he sends Theodosia to her father, where she should arrive in at least 8 days. The ship never made it to New York. So what happened to the ship? What happened to Theodosia? Was there pirates? Privateers? Remember, the War of 1812 was going on. Could have been a British warship. There's no evidence of any boat being crashed onto the shore. There was a hurricane the first week of January. That could have been it. But she never showed up anywhere. What's really sad is there are romance novels from the early 1900s saying that Theodosia was kidnapped by pirates and fell in love with them and even protected them from gunshot. See, now we're back to why we have an issue with Hollywood rewriting history. It's sad, right? She disappears going to see her father with possible stomach cancer. She just lost her son. And there's books about her falling in love with pirates, but that's entertainment. What happened to Theodosia's husband? The fact she disappeared? He never got over that. He lost his wife and his son. 2 years later, he died of a broken heart. Aaron Burr also lost his daughter and grandson. It's very sad. I'm so excited because on this tour, normally you don't get off the van, but it's just me and my mom, and the guy's letting me get off and actually come and see the graves. I'm very excited to finally be at Joseph and his son Aaron Burr's tomb. This was made for 3, but as we know, Theodosia was never found. But this is the family cemetery. As you see, many people are buried here. It's really sad that he died of a broken heart 2 years after her. But here's where they're buried.